Don't turn and make a left. Shit, he's running.
He's running? Which way is he running?
Down towards the other entrance of the neighborhood.
Okay. Which entrance is that he's heading towards?
The back entrance.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
Okay.
So we just played that clip, and you can hear the dispatcher telling George Zimmerman that he does not need to follow Trayvon Martin. So, like, just really thinking about it, this whole situation could have been avoided if he had just followed the instructions that he was given by the dispatcher. So how do you feel knowing that this whole situation could have been avoided, but he took things in his own hands?
So sick. Like, the fact that he just blatantly didn't listen and took matters in his own hands. That in itself right there lets you know that there's this divide in America, and it's this blatant racism issue that played a part in this case, that I believe.
And it's so, like, for me, as a black man, I would never feel comfortable, even though it's not the cops, it's just the dispatcher. After they told me, like, somebody's on the way, we'll handle it, to just go ahead and take it into my own hands just because of the hatred that I have for someone of another race. It's like, I don't think they could ever understand how it is on the other side of things.
You said it perfectly. Like, they won't understand. I don't think they want to, in a sense, and it's sad because it's just like, just listen to that clip. Like, he's blatantly telling them, yeah, we don't need you to do that. Don't follow him. And he says, okay. But as we know, the story plays out, he continued to follow him. He was in his car following him, and then he got out of his car and followed him on foot. Like, not only did you not listen to the first direction, you took matters in your own hands and you escalated the situation by getting out the vehicle. It's totally uncalled for.
And then somehow at the end was able to still play the victim after all this.
And still play the victim. Like, I don't get it. Like, if I'm being followed, like, I'm getting chills right now talking about this. Like, if I'm being followed at night by a vehicle and I peek over my shoulder and I see it, I'm going to put a little extra pep in my step to try to get to where I need to be.
Right.
And then as I'm doing that, I hear a door open and you proceed to get out and then follow me on foot. That makes me think, like, okay, something's about to go down. My life is in danger at this point. And you go into that mode of fight or fight. Like, you got to protect yourself and defend yourself at that point. And somehow he still managed to play victim after escalating the issue, after he was told not to escalate the issue.
Right. So I wanted to start there just because that's, like, this all could have been avoided. So moving a little forward in the story, when was the first time you heard about it, and what was your initial reaction to hearing this story? Because it took a while for it to get out, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it took a little bit. I think it happened a couple of weeks after it was 2012, so my 22nd birthday. I was a senior in college when it happened. And to put a little backstory there, I went to school in rural Maine, at the Thomas College in Waterville, Maine. So, you know, I was one of the only blacks on campus at the time that this happened. So to see this happen and hear about this happening, it affected me big time because not only am I one of the few blacks at the time, it's like I don't have anybody to turn to other than those blacks. And it's only a few of us on campus as it is. So to be, you know, huddled in a corner or at a table discussing this issue with your friends and your boys was kind of traumatizing in itself, that alone, because you just don't have that support. You know what I mean? Like, this is a 17-year-old teenager, African-American, who in many aspects and many points we were that same kid walking to the corner store at night, getting a couple snacks, a bag of chips, or whatever the case may be. And, you know, it didn't feel right when I heard about it. And when I first heard about it, I just sensed that something was not going to go in our favor.
Yeah, so I was actually going to mention the fact that you were up there and kind of by yourself. So not to really, like, stick anybody out or anything, but were your white counterparts able to understand the trauma that you were kind of going through, seeing it, even though it didn't happen to you or anybody you knew?
I don't think they did initially because, to be honest, I kind of tried to suppress it a little bit. I tried to hold it in and keep it in and try to deal with it myself. And then when I did get a situation to go, or opportunity to be with one of my boys and my friends, we talked about it then. But when we did get into that open space, we kind of suppressed it because we just didn't know what was going to transpire. And how they were going to take it and how it would escalate into a situation or possible situation. So, like I said, initially you kind of just like, you're like, damn, like this is going on. This is going into my, my community. And as a Black young man, this is happening to me. Not directly, but it, metaphorically it's happening to me. And you want to do something about it. You want to feel a way about it. But at the same time, you kind of, I felt like I kind of had to take a step back a little bit because I just didn't know what could happen if I were to address it the way I wanted to address it, or feel initially as angry as I wanted to.
It's sad that you have to feel like that just because you're around people that don't look like you. You don't know how to react to something negative happening to someone that looks like you. So for me, when it first came out, if I remember correctly, the story came out in bits and pieces because it didn't even come out.
Yeah.
I think to the next month when they started talking about stuff. So you hear the story about the kid gets killed in this neighborhood. It looks suspicious. So I immediately think, okay, it had to be a cop. Come to find out, this guy's not even a cop. This guy is like
neighborhood
watch guy who wants to be a tough guy. And I think he tried to get into the police or whatever, but wasn't able to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even more devastating to know, like, not you kind of expect the cops to do certain things, but for a person that is not wearing a badge to do that and be able to get away with it, to me is even more traumatizing because now I know any random Joe on the street can do whatever they want and possibly be able to get off, especially somewhere like that where they have the stand your ground law. Even though he is the antagonist in this, or the protagonist, I don't know, whatever. He's the one who started all of this, and then it came down to Trayvon being portrayed in the media as, this thug, and he had whatever in school and marijuana
toting
stuff that had nothing to do with the case. So it's the next point I was going to get into is like how the media continues to go back into people's history and turn them into something that they're not, or at least something that doesn't have anything to do with the situation, just to make them look bad and to justify what was done to them. They turn the victims into the aggressors, and it's something that's hard to deal with, but it's coming every single time.
All right, that's what I was almost getting at to earlier when I was saying, like, you just, like, we're taught right from wrong, and we know right from wrong. We look at situations like, okay, did he do what he was supposed to do? Did he do what he was supposed to do? And if yes, you go this way. If no, go this way. But seeing it play out and hearing the facts initially, you just know, like, it's not going to go how it should go. And there's still no justice being served for that. And the other cases and killings and of unarmed Black young men, Black people, period. And it's sickening. It's really disgusting to see how it's continuing to happen, and nobody seems to like listen. Like, this is a problem, and we gotta fix it.
Right. So, and another part that I meant to add was that it wasn't even going to go to trial if it wasn't for, I think it was change.org that had the petition, and they kept putting pressure on the system to at least take Zimmerman to trial. So if it had not been for that, he would have roamed free. He never would have even trial. So just to,
and that took I think that took a year or so.
I want to say it was like a long time. So it's like,
yeah, I want to say 2013 was the trial
on the system, not for a conviction, just for a trial.
And even with the trial, you're just kind of hoping, but you just know in the back of your head, like, they're gonna tear this thing up in a way and make it seem like Trayvon just came out and was swinging on him and being the aggressor from jump, and that's not what happened. And I don't believe, like, we weren't there. God is the only one that knows what happened that night, but you just feel it, like, that's not what happened.
Right.
Especially when you see like the video footage from the corner store. Like, I mean, he just went to the drink cooler, got himself a drink and a bag of Skittles snack, and he was on his way. It was a rainy night. He had his hood on. The most logical person I know would put a hood on or some kind of head covering in the rain.
Yeah.
Especially at night, if you got your headphones in, like that's what teenagers do. That's what people do. When it rains outside and they don't have an umbrella or some kind of jacket, they put their hood on.
Right, and that goes back to the media piece of this, which has, for how many ever decades, depicted young black men as thugs, and when they portray them as that, they always show the pictures of the guys on the corner with the hoodies on. So now he sees somebody with a hoodie, and he's automatically able to say, okay, he fits that criteria that I've seen on television wherever, and now he must be a threat. He must be doing something wrong. Let me go handle this. So with that said, now we get to the trial, and for me, I think I was a little bit naive because at 22, like there had been cases of situation like this, more so with the cops. Like closer to us, there was Malik Jones, and that was in the 90s, I think. And I think his mom was fighting for justice for him for my whole childhood, and I don't think she ever got it. And then you have Sean Bell in New York, that was 6. So 06, we're 16. Like, so we're not really into it that way. We don't really, not aware of what's going on to the extent that we are at 22. So going into this case, I'm thinking like the facts are already out there. He took someone's life unjustifiably. He has to be convicted of this and at least do some kind of time. The verdict comes not guilty. If I'm correct, that's how it's worded, not guilty. What was your feeling when it happened?
Defeated. Like absolutely defeated. I remember, I think I was out with my girlfriend at the time, my now wife. We were out at a friend's house and ran to the store to get something, and we came back home and something just told me to turn on the TV, the CNN. And as I turn it on, flashes across the screen, not guilty. And it's like, damn, like all the facts are there. Regardless of how you wanted to chum it up and, change the narrative in the court and the questionings and all that, and the media ripping it apart. Regardless of all of that, the facts were there enough for, like you said, for him to do at least some time. But he got off scot-free. And then it hurts even more because not even a couple years later, he goes and sells the gun that he kills Trayvon with for like $250,000, and he just thought it was like it's tasteless. It's just
he was like a hero to some people. Just think about how crazy that is. Why would you want to buy that?
That's nuts. That's nuts. Like somebody has that in a frame or some kind of glass box in their man cave or their house somewhere displayed. Like, this is the gun that killed George Zimmerman. And probably has a story about it, how he got off scot-free.
I couldn't even.
And to some people, he's a national hero.
Just shows the two different Americas. I know for me, I remember vividly, we were listening to the radio. We had pulled into the gas station, pumped the gas, got back in the car, and my girlfriend at the time, now wife, she says to me, the verdict came back, not guilty. And it's just like something comes out of your body, like your spirit just like is so, like you said, defeated that you just want to sit there and process it for a second. Like, how in the world could this happen? And then you start thinking about all the things that have happened, like the makeup of the jury. I don't think there was anybody black on the jury. I think it was mostly Caucasian women, if I'm correct.
And all women. Yeah, all women.
Have no representation from someone who might be more understanding of the situation. If you have all Caucasian people, I think there might have been one Spanish person. Regardless, you got to be able. It's supposed to be a jury of your peers. So there needs to be somebody that can understand another perspective. To understand that a young black man walking with a hoodie on doesn't mean he's a threat. Like, but there wasn't. So I'm gonna play this clip, and you can tell me your reaction to this.
That George Zimmerman, in taking out his gun and pulling the trigger, did nothing wrong.
I'm 101% that he should have done what he did, except for the things that he did before.
You mean he shouldn't have gotten out of the car, he shouldn't have pursued Trayvon Martin, but in the final analysis, in the final struggle,
When the end came, the end,
he was justified.
he was justified in shooting Trayvon Martin.
So she says he shouldn't have ever followed him, and he escalated it to the point that he had to do that. But because it got to that, he's justified in doing what he did.
First of all, there's no such thing as 101%. Like, we can like start there. 2, the hesitation in her voice alone says that my man is guilty. 3, the hesitation in her voice alone, and the fact that the reporter answered her own or finished her own sentence, it says that he was 100% guilty. Like, if you felt that strongly out the gate, that's what you say. You don't let somebody else finish a sentence and put words in your mouth. Like, so he's 100% for killing him, and he's 100% guilty for not following orders and directions of what the dispatcher told you to do.
Yeah,
She's absolutely right. 100%. She's absolutely right. If he did not do what he was told not to do, Trayvon would still be here.
I'm no expert on the court and how it works in terms of what you can consider in that case and what you can't. But as someone on the outside, it just doesn't make any sense that you're allowed to instigate a situation and he defends himself in that situation after you're following him. And then you're able to justifiably say, I shot him out of fear for my own life. How did you become fearful of your own life? You instigated a situation, you followed him, started a fight, and then shot him. So nobody can say what his plan was from the beginning. But to me, from the stories that I've heard, things that I've read, I think he had intentions of creating an issue and justifiably, in his mind, shooting him from the very beginning, which is scary because there are so many people. As I look at the protests that are going around the country and things like that, there are so many people that fall into that same category. Like the young kid, where was it? They ended up shooting a bunch of people. And people on the internet are like, well, they were attacking him. Right, but he provoked them first. He provoked them, then was able to shoot them. Yeah, he got arrested, but it's just the mindset of so many people. Like, I'm going to start this, and I feel justified in ending it by taking someone's life.
It's sick and it's sad to see because we've seen this in our own community where you see fights break out and somebody instigates the fight and then the other one gets shot or severely beaten or whatever the case may be, and it's like, well, he started hitting me. Well, of course he's gonna start hitting you. He's defending himself. You can't be the aggressor and then play the victim. It's one or the other. You can't be both.
Right.
And in this case, he was able to be both and got off scot-free with no repercussion in it. It's scary, yo. Because other people saw that and was like, oh, if this case could be so national and he could get off that easy, what's gonna hold me back from trying to do something like that?
Right.
And it's happened since then, and it's continuing to happen, and it's super, super scary that, like I said, it's just this big racial divide in this country where they just feel free-spirited in their actions, where we have to suppress our actions and still defend ourselves, and we still get blamed and pictured in the media as these animals that just roam the earth with no care at all. Like it's sickening.
Yeah, and it definitely opens the door, like you said, for other people to feel like they can do it and get away with it. So to end, just you touched on it before, but in general, seeing something like that at that age, what kind of trauma does it create for you, even moving to now? And like, how are you able to kind of deal with that as we continue to see situations like that happen weekly, monthly?
Well, again, being at that age, and seeing, somebody killed at that age, see, at 22, I remember my father having the talk with me again, and you know what the talk is as far as being African American in this country. If you go into a stores, make sure your hands are visible. Make sure you don't have a hood on or hat on or covering your face, or make sure, you're speaking up. You're not mumbling. You're talking to the person, looking them right in the eye. Like those things have stuck with me today. But in a weird sense, that's a sense of like, yeah, you want to have that respect for that person who you're talking to and dealing with in that present moment. But like, that shouldn't be a reason why my life could be taken. You know what I mean? Like, once that had happened, and why that was happening, I'm up in Maine. I don't want to go into a store by myself. I don't want to go into gas stations by myself. I would make it a point to walk on the well-lit side of the street, give somebody a chance to see something. I want to make sure that my hands are visible, that my face is seen, and just give myself, which is crazy to say, but like give myself a chance to see another day. Like it's crazy. And then being up in rural Maine, I don't, you stick out like a sore thumb up there. It's just blatantly honest. And even being back home with that happening in that particular case in New Haven, Hampton, it's the same stuff that goes on. You just, like I said, you just give yourself a chance and enough to get home and see another day. And that's the trauma that was created then, and it still gets to me now. Like I always try to make sure I get home at a reasonable time of the night after work. I don't try to be out too much. I don't want to be caught in a situation where it's dark and I need help and I go to seek help and my life can be taken because somebody may feel some type of way about the color of my skin or what I may have on. And it's scary, man. Like,
Definitely scary. And it's a shame we got to live this way and always be on the lookout and trying to always do the right things at all times. And I think many of us as Black men in particular, because we try to be so strong about things and like to talk about things, have kept dealing with trauma over and over and over, and it just grows and just builds in us. And we really have no outlet to let it go, even up to this point. Like for me to even want to get up here and talk about Trayvon Martin, which happened in 2012, and to have never really got my thoughts out in a meaningful way, I don't know, it's just crazy, man. I've been to therapy for different reasons, and I know a lot of Black people don't want to go to therapy. It definitely helps, and I think we should. But the real solution to this is for it to stop happening. So we don't have to continue to deal with this. We don't continue to have to go through this. And so that we're able to live lives like the rest of America is able to live and not have to go out and walk on one side of the street so that people can see us. Like, why do you need to see that? What's in my hand? Like,
that's crazy. Like ever since then, like I've always make it a note. Like if I'm out walking somewhere, which I'm not as much now, but even if I used to go running a lot, like in my college days and younger days, I don't go running really as much. And if I do, it's very early in the morning, making sure it's sunny outside, and I'm out in the open public areas. I'm not running down side streets or small streets or dead end streets or stuff like that where it's not a lot of traffic. I'm making sure I'm seen, so if something were to happen, somebody can see something. But like,
even going jogging, you can end up like Ahmaud Arbery. It's like
that's what I stopped. That happened, and during the shutdown, that was one of my only outlets to try to work out and stay fit. And that had happened. I stopped running. Literally stopped. I think I was running maybe twice a week, and then that particular place blew up national media wise because of pressure. And you saw that, I'm like, my wife was like, "Oh, you gonna work out today?" Nah, I don't want to go running. And where I am, it's a lot of side streets, and we got pretty much one main road. But like to get where you want to get to, like after you get a workout and do the hills and stuff, you got to go down side streets and quiet streets and dead ends. And I like to run with my music, but I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want anything to be a distraction. whether it's music for my own sake, just to keep myself going, or I can't hear anything, or God forbid I was to go running and I got my headphones on and somebody were to say something or a cop pulls up behind me and tries to apprehend or whatever, and I don't hear him because I got my headphones on. But I know I'm not doing nothing wrong. I'm just working out and I got music going. But I could very well lose my life because I didn't hear his first command or whatever, how many command. It's scary, man.
It's a very, very sad situation.
Like your life, you really got to go through a checklist when you get up in the morning. Like I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, and I got to be home by this certain time because I don't want these things to happen or potentially happen.
Right. It's definitely scary. We could definitely go on all day about this, but I'm gonna wrap it up here. Part one, talking about Trayvon Martin in that case. We'll continue to get together every week or two and just talk about these cases and just be able to pour out a little bit, take a little bit of the load off of us. And I don't even want to say this, but I'm sure there will be more cases, so we'll never run out of stuff to talk about, unfortunately.
And that's the sad truth.